Hi, it's Skiffin Lebates here, and last night I had an interesting, if somewhat too short, discussion with David Koyser over at the Technical University of Darmstadt. And what we were talking about was the issue of trust in computing and indeed in the world. And I thought it was worth making a video in order to talk a bit about this, because the underlying problem in blockchain when it comes to the concept of trust is that trust is a many-faceted word, and people use it in different situations to mean different things. And of course, when you have a word that has different meanings in different contexts, you often end up with people getting different ideas as to what the meaning behind it actually is. So anyway, here we go, a video about trust. Now, the way that I look at trust is that it's a high expectation of something happening or not happening. So, for example, if I say that I trust my friend, what I mean is that I can predict how he's going to behave in certain circumstances, and therefore I can make decisions based on that. So I have some friends who I would trust with my car and other friends who I wouldn't. In blockchain, people often talk about it being a system that builds trust, and yet other people talk about it as being a trustless system. And that sounds a bit like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it? They mean the opposite things. So what are people talking about when they're using trust in these contexts? Well, if you think about our financial systems, we're expected to trust our banks. The idea is that banks are heavily regulated and scrutinized. There are lots of laws governing what they can and cannot do, and there are meant to be lots of accountants and auditors ensuring that they don't engage in fraudulent behavior. Unfortunately, history shows that the regulation and the auditing doesn't always work, but at least it gives us a reasonable level of confidence, in most countries anyway, that banks won't run off with your money or do something stupid and foolish and go bust. And most of the time that's true. When you look at mechanical systems, on the other hand, i.e. systems that are being run by machines rather than people ultimately being responsible for ensuring that transactions go through and that money isn't siphoned off into some secret bank account, then you start entering the realm of trustless systems. And the idea here is that the trust is engendered by the fact that the system is deterministic. You have a description of how the system is going to function. Anybody can go in and check that it is functioning that way. So that's the element of transparency that you hear people talking about in blockchain. And as a result, we all have high confidence that if I send you some Bitcoin, for example, the underlying blockchain system and the consensus system and the incentivization system will ensure that I no longer own that Bitcoin and you do. A high level of trust is thereby engendered in people. And similarly, the system itself is meant to be trustless. Rather than having to have some kind of psychological confidence in it actually functioning, you can go and check at the code level and at the network level that it will function as it is intended. So in this sense, you can compare it, for example, to aeroplane systems, where we build in lots of different checks and redundancy systems so that if something fails, there'll be a fallback that ensures that the situation or an emergency is remedied. And that's an example of a, well, not entirely trustless system, but a system where you need less trust because you're not relying on some service engineers checking the aeroplane before each flight. It's not just that is giving you confidence that you're going to have a safe journey. You also know that there are all these other systems and checks and warning lights and things like that that ensure that nothing should go wrong. And in fact, air travel is one of the most reliable forms of travel on the planet, precisely because of all these backup systems and redundancy systems and so on and so forth. So anyway, I think I'll wrap it up there, but hopefully it's given you some food for thought. And I find it very interesting that something as simple as the word trust can actually be so complicated. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye for now.